All right, we are in week 2, talking about coaching techniques. And this just a portion, this is just a portion of the coaching techniques. So we're not gonna see all of them and do like a fire hose. Because this is a revamp of the previous slides. So previous classes, we have the newest version of the slides you guys are looking at. And it's just from feedback that Janet and Daryl were getting. And they were like, oh, we need to kind of separate these coaching techniques out because it's like 20 different techniques we tried to put all in this 1 week. And so we're not going to do that to you this time. So it's going to be a whole lot better consuming what we're teaching on this week 2. So specifically, this week we will learn the power of using coaching instead of advice giving. And so, previous week we talked about, the telling myth, where people don't need to be told what to do, but need to be involved in the process to get that revelation. We're going to talk more about that and, the power of using questions instead of giving advice. And then also we will be introduced to the important coaching skill known as active listening. And so that's what this week is about, just diving into that of being an active listener and what's that truly mean. The remainder of the class will discover what coaching sounds like when done properly. So we'll look at some scenarios, and you guys will get it even more of like what we're talking about with the specific questions to ask and not give advice. All right. And then, like I said, you're gonna see this each week. Each week, you're gonna see this. This is the breakthrough coaching model. So 6 steps of coaching model map, and this is a good guide to keep in front of you to know where others are in the journey, as you're doing your session. So as you're going through, you'll be like, okay, this is what we're working on. And you'll be able to go through and see. So you have awareness, where's the client right now, vision, what's the specific goal, obstacles, what is standing in that client's way, and then working through support, what can support the client's success. And these are things the client needs to add or remove in order to help their goals. Strategy, how is the client getting there? It's a detailed plan that can be adjusted with gain clarity as the process progresses. And then always ending with some action items. This is key to tracking that progress, towards the strategy, towards the vision. Is making sure you end with getting those action items established, so you get some type of measurement going for that person. So how's the client willing to take action, and then getting commitments for regular small steps that will incrementally move the client forward. Because that's the main thing. It seems like, is the client actually moving forward with the coaching sessions that you're having? That's how you kind of gauge of like, do we have, the correct goals set for this person? Are they progressing in life? Are they actually, going somewhere in life and progressing and not, backtracking? So diving into the coaching questions. So I know, Pedro, you've been diving into the book. And then have you came across the active listening inside of the coaching book? Like, what's that mean to you when you talk about active listening?
Yeah, active listening is letting the person, your client, know that you're listening by responding with questions, or just letting them know that you're attentive.
Yeah,
Responding with feedback or questions, or something that lets them know, like, you're in the moment with them.
exactly. So yeah, genuinely genuinely listening, having that full attention, really engaged and present in the conversation, giving that person space to talk. That's the big thing, giving them space to talk. But that term of getting everything off your chest. So letting that person you sit back, you listening, let them get everything off their chest. They need to get off their chest. Yeah. And these are some coaching questions. So coaching questions feed a conversation and naturally involve the client. So, and people's brains are wired to enjoy being asked questions as a natural process. Yeah, questions place the client in an active mental mode, whereas giving advice puts them in a passive dormant mode. Strategic questions bring forth solutions that the client participates in. So Tony, I ask you this: what's wrong with a closed-ended question? So you just ask a question that's just like yes or no instead of like open-ended.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got me right there. And I say it like this. I know it's not the proper way to do things, but I'm a little stuck in really articulating and explaining it.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's like that conversation stops. You ask those, closed-ended questions. We're just saying yes, no. You
Okay.
don't want the client, to get stuck with those closed-ended questions. And then it gets to that point where you start, giving advice, giving answers. It puts it kind of in your boat, kind of lead the
Okay.
conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't want that. You want the client to, continue to talk, continue to dive deeper innerly, what their answers are instead of you giving advice. Because this is their session. They have all the answers. You just need to bring it out of them.
Okay.
That's what you're doing as a coach. You're bringing it out of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, Julius, we're asking questions that are causing the client to do some critical thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some good focused questions. Yeah. Not too general, but actually focused questions on, on what they need to be questioned about to bring, some deep questions out of them, answers out of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, ownership. So just talking about questions, coaching questions as well. So no one ever washes a rental car. This is from Thomas Peters, a passion for excellence. People don't wash rental cars because they don't own them. People don't follow your advice because they are your solutions and not theirs. Yeah. So that's all this is saying. It's just saying you're gonna give this advice. It may sound great. It's great, good advice. But are they truly going to commit to it? Are they truly going to follow that advice and actually do it? And case studies and over the years, it's been shown that people commit to things that they actually have a revelation about, and they create that solution themselves. Instead of you making that solution for them. Then the answers towards the coaching question. So good coaching questions produce good answers that result in client clarity. So it's that getting the client to a sound mind. That's what we're trying to get to, is getting that client to have a sound mind. That's what we're trying to ask all these questions to be like, okay, where it's clear to the client on what they need to do. And coaches ask open-ended questions like who, what, when, where, how. And coaches avoid closed-ended questions, as we discussed, that yield only yes or no answers. Coaches, this is big. Coaches also avoid why questions because why is usually intimidating to clients and implies they should already have things figured out. And that's a big thing. Like if you start asking the why questions, it kind of it might make some people offended. I'm like, why are you asking me why? And they start thinking, analytically about things, all that type of stuff. So it's better to avoid as much as you can why, saying why. And it could get people down like a rabbit hole of like just diving into a rabbit hole. Like I said, doing that analytics and analysis paralysis and of trying to understand. And this is a road you don't want to go down. You don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
So these are some examples of closed and open-ended questions. And so, like I said, you want to stay towards the open-ended side of these. And so here goes a close. So would you be able to do that and keep your evenings open for your family? And that's a yes or no question right there. And you could
Yeah.
rephrase it as, what could you do to keep your evenings open for your family? And so that's where they start thinking of like, okay, I can move this around, move that around. It won't be just a plain old yes or no, where they actually need to, dive deep and see like, okay, what I need to move around, to keep evenings open for my family. And then the closed, do you want to make some needed changes in your life? That's a yes or no. Instead, you should ask it this way: what exactly would change look like in your life? And that's where they probably sit back and like, oh, that's a good question. You got to think about that. Yeah. And that's what you want. Because the big thing is like how can we involve the client in the process? That's why you're asking these open-ended questions. Because you don't want to just be you talking most of the time. You want the client to be, talking most of that time. Because these are the different things right here. So centered coaching questions. So coach centered. I've been praying about your progress, and there are a couple of things I want to share with you. And so that's when it gets to coach centered. I mean, there are times that you can do that, but you don't want to do a whole lot of this. Oops, you don't want to do a whole lot of that. Client centered. What is on your mind to talk about today? What is important for us to address today? And that's where you want it to be right there. You want to, ask it and do this in this way, and not kind of steer the conversation. You want the client to steer the conversation where it needs to go. But yeah, you're keeping the client in the driver's seat. That's a big thing, and the coach should not be there. But yeah, successful sessions are 80% of the client talking versus 20%, the coaches. And with the coaches talking is, you're asking, listening, and responding. And like you said, Pedro, with feedback, all those type of things, you're giving that feedback. That's when you're talking more, and when you're probably giving some feedback. And you're being engaged, being actively listening. But yeah, active listening. So diving into specifically what active listening is. And then what would you say, Tony? What would you say active listening is? I know Pedro answered, but what's your perspective on active listening?
Okay, I'm learning because I hate being put on the spot, but I'm gonna have to learn if I'm gonna be a coach.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Active listening, I would say, is just my opinion. It's just if someone is talking, literally listening, not so much to respond, but listening to understand.
There you go. There you go. Yep. Yep. But yeah, it's meaning, someone is sharing what is on their heart, without interruption, or at least, you probably chime in a little bit, here and there, but not going off subject when you chime in. That's the thing. It's like, oh,
Yes.
you really wasn't listening. You talking about something else. Chiming
Yeah.
in, but being on topic. If you do, chime in, and
Yeah.
being tuned in, and being patient. That's the big thing. It's
Yeah.
like
That's
be
the key.
patient. Don't try to trying to think what to say next. No, just listen. Be patient. The conversation will lead. Just be a natural thing of just listening. Yeah. But yeah, active listening is a way of listening and responding to another person that improves mutual understanding. That's a big thing. But yeah, you are trying to get to, what your client's obstacle is. It'll pop up in that conversation as you're listening. And like I said, you want to keep, writing down those key things that you hear too. So you hear key things and what the person is saying, you're writing that down so you can bring it back up. But yeah, it helps you, it helps you, build trust with that person and understand other people's situations and feelings. That in turn, this empowers you to offer that support and empathy, as you need to. Okay, so listening. So the first service that one owes to others in the fellowship consists of listening to them. It's a quote from Bonhoeffer from Life Together. And then here in Proverbs 18:13, it says, to answer before listening, that is folly and shame. Yeah. So listen first, answer after.
Yeah, for sure.
What's that old saying? I guess maybe our parents used to say, you got two ears, one mouth.
Yeah.
It's made for listen. Yeah, listen first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
More listening, less talking.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be
That
quick
carries.
to hear and slow to speak.
Yep.
Swift to hear and slow to speak. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And then James 1:19 right here. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What you were saying.
Mhm.
So it's biblical. It's found. That's foundational. What we should be doing. This is especially as coaches, because every client is unique. That is
Mhm.
the number one thing to understand is this active listening thing is huge. That's why this whole week right here was we're just talking about active listening, because it's like one of the number one things you have to do as a coach is just sit back, listen, and let the client get to the answers. Like don't don't be quick to give advice. There may be something similar to another person experience, but don't be quick to add, that person into that group of another person experience. You know, they may have a different, unique solution, for them, or they need to get to it. They get to it in a certain way, where just like, oh, you give them, that advice, and it kind of messes them up. We're just like they're not gonna be all the way committed to it because they didn't figure it out themselves. You know,
Exactly.
so it's just like just loving the process of another person getting to that revelation, and you just asking the questions, getting them there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the one thing, and I think you all may can concur, one thing I've learned in life. Now, if someone asks you for advice, that's one thing, but most people do not like unsolicited, I mean, advice. Because the thing of it is, most people, just in general, and I think that's just our nature, do not like to be told what to do.
yeah, yep, yep.
You can
Exactly.
suggest, you can ask, but I guess it's like a respect thing.
Yeah,
Don't just impose your will on me.
exactly, exactly. I mean, it could be, we're prideful by nature.
Yeah.
All us, especially us guys. Us guys
Yes.
don't want to be
Yes.
told what to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
It's like letting that guard down and
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Even with your own parents, much as you love them and respect them, it's like once you get past that adult age, I still honor and you respect you, but I'm an adult now too.
yep, yep, exactly, exactly. All right. And then active right here. So listening to the client's agenda. So you're being engaged and you're listening and you're trying to kind of see, okay, where the client is and their agenda. Listening and not giving advice given, as we discussed. Listening requires patience. Listening requires concentration. Listening is being in the moment. So like I said, you staying in that moment, you're not getting off subject, talking about something else when you chime in. But you're in that moment and you're with them. And I like in the book it talks about too when somebody has a certain like metaphor that they use. You use that metaphor too to relate to them. Down the road or whatever. But you take note of that metaphor that they use or their type of language that they're using or whatever. But you kind of take that in so you can relate to them and kind of speak their language. As well. So just taking note of that. So if they're like a big sports fan and they did a metaphor of a football field, something like that, and you take note of that. Like, okay, I could bring up different football metaphors um or a garden. Is a guy that likes gardening or whatever. He likes planting. You like, oh, you can do a metaphor with that about the garden, about growing roots and producing fruit, all those type of things. So just take note of that of what your client is, the person you're coaching is talking about and relating to them. Listening gives space to think. You know, it's not like you're not trying to cloud that space. Like just be comfortable with a little silence in the room. That's hard for some people where it's like you got 30 seconds of silence because the person is thinking that you're talking to, the client that you're working with, they're just trying to, think through and process, allow that space for them to think. You don't have to be quick to, fill that space in, with whatever words. Just let them process. Listening gives us clues. And that's why I was saying write down those different, indicators, that people are saying. And I know we'll talk more about that too. So why would you say this is a gift? So listening is a gift. So I ask you both that. Why is listening a gift?
I think listening is a gift because without listening, there wouldn't be any communication. Without proper listening, you wouldn't be able to communicate. You wouldn't be able to uh, have healthy relationships. I think listening, as you stated, um, this whole this whole lesson this week is on this because it is such a essential part of what we do on a day, even outside of coaching. In
Yeah,
any relationship, as a parent, as a spouse, whatever. If you're not a good listener, you're gonna constantly have communication problems,
yeah,
and that's always gonna lead to broken relationships or dead relationships that aren't growing. So
yeah,
I think listening is a major important thing for us to develop. You know.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I concur totally with what Pedro was saying. I agree 100%. And again, just back to what I was saying earlier, it produces understanding when you really listen to understand without jumping to a conclusion, hear the whole matter out. And
exactly.
then from that point forward, then you two can come up with something. But I also know that even in listening, it's like you have to have an open heart. You have to be open to a solution as well.
Exactly. Because they may be thinking something totally different from what you're thinking. You gotta be okay with it. You gotta let them roll with it. Let them process it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they may say some off the wall stuff like but you got to let them process it. Let them
yeah,
process.
yeah.
But yeah, also, it's a gift of your time and attention, you know, because many people feel like they are not being heard, in this world. So it's just like some people just don't feel heard a lot of times, and this is a true form of validation that their heart is being heard. Because people are laying, they're booking this time with you because they're trying to, lay out their heart to you. They want to
Hmm.
lay their heart out to you and what they really want to do and their passions and what they want to achieve in life and all those things. And you gotta be listening. You gotta take note. You know, People are laying it all out there.
Yeah, when you listen to just, and I think this is just the nature of who we are as humans.
Yeah,
We want to be affirmed. We want to be validated. And when you listen to someone and you really give them your undivided attention, that's a way of kind of like validating who they are in a sense.
exactly. And it brings that comfort. That
Yes.
comfort to the client where like they're gonna be even more open and more, have more intimate conversation. What they're going through. And that's what you want. That's what you want. You want them to truly get to the core of what they're trying to achieve in life, and then or
Mhm.
what goals they're trying to achieve. And so it helps when you're actively listening and taking note of what they're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then targets. So right here, uh, like I said, you're gonna be taking notes as they're talking. These are different things you'll listen for. So attitudes, positive, negative, insights, and intuition or discernment that's popping up. Emotion, fears, and passions. You're taking note of those. Skills, what client does and doesn't possess. Transitions happening in their life, events and changes happening. Choices. So the options and the obstacles, they'll bring all those different things up. You got take note of them, actively listening. And then patterns, so repeated beliefs or behaviors as well. So just being aware of all these different targets, that's coming up as they're bearing their soul to you. They're truly talking to you and being open and trusting you, you know, and you're taking note of all these things. But you're listening for content for what is not being said, you know. So some of these things it's gonna be like a certain tone that they have or a certain movement that they're doing as they're talking, discomfort, all those type of things. You'll take note of that. Maybe something where like you're uncomfortable talking about this person. Why? Like your uncle Ben. So why are you so uncomfortable talking about, or not why, but what makes you so uncomfortable about talking about your Uncle Ben? Is there anything, you know, what happened there? So it's just things you could, dive into. And then like I say, you'll repeat back. So that's the thing. So these things will pop up at times, and a good thing is to repeat back questionable things that are said, and then dive into that. So this gets into a deeper conversation when these targets pop up. Which is like you could dive into those. And then obstacles. So these are specific. So read through these, and these are talking about the coaching obstacles, for yourself, what you may be going through. So, like we talked about before, if you're not actively listening, you're, doing one of these things are going on. Thinking ahead about the next question when you should be, being in the moment, listening. Distraction by your own life events, and so there may be something that happened, before that session that you're meeting with the client, and you may have to possibly reschedule, like a death in the family may have happened and that's on your mind and you you didn't reschedule that session, and you just distracted by that life event, or you just had a baby, something like that, and you're kind of distracted. Biased, assumptive listening. So not having a, a, a biased mindset, towards things. Just like we said, not judging, you know, anything that the client is saying and letting them process. That could be just letting them process. Not giving client proper space to think. Like I said, not filling that space in with just random questions, random words, but letting them process everything. Interrupting client with stories and advice. Filling that space in with that. It's filling the space in with your stories and advice. When it should just be like letting them process and letting them get to that answer they should need to get to. Looking in the past too often. And then trying to meet in a public place could be an obstacle as well. So that's a big thing. Is just like if you have these sessions, is to find a quiet place for you guys to truly be open and talk. Not meaning like a Starbucks or any coffee shop or whatever, but just a private room where you guys can truly talk how you need to talk. So looking at these, what do you think like your own challenges with listening are or would be, with your clients? Just asking both of you guys what you think would pop up for you personally.
I think for me, sometime when you're listening to someone and it's like they're saying something and it's like you can answer that question, but sometimes it's like, okay,
Yep,
that's not your place.
yep, yep. So it's really that stories and advice part for you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's good, Tony. That's knowing when to speak is important too, right?
Mhm.
But I think for me is something I've noticed at times, even when I'm giving counsel, um, if I'm having like if my day started off a little, something's going on in my personal life and I'm on my way to work and I know I need to see some youth for some individual sessions,
Mhm.
I sometimes reschedule the session because I know that if I'm sitting with that young man and my mind is on other things, I'm not going to be able to be 100% present and I'll be distracted. And I've done it before and
Yeah,
then realized like, man, I really wasn't giving this kid my full attention. My mind is elsewhere. This is not good for them. It's not good for me. So just realizing that, getting my mind right, making sure I'm in a good, peaceful place mentally and emotionally. Um, yeah, that's probably the big one for me. Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, it's good to see those things and just recognize it, ahead of time. Like, okay, but no, that was good. Yeah, you reschedule. Yeah, if you know that you're going to be your mind's will be occupied with something else, uh, definitely reschedule those. That's a good decision. For me, yeah, there's times where I think ahead to the next question. That's me in some coaching sessions. I start thinking ahead, like, okay, what should I ask next? So I get to that point a lot of times. I'm trying to break free, and that's the thing. We try to break free from these things, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Unlearn. We gotta unlearn some things.
Hmm. Yeah, some habits.
Yep.
Sometimes it's
Yep.
just habits.
But yes, there's a need to unlearn and letting the person solve that problem as they, so their eyes could be open, themselves, and it's more impactful for the client. It's a lot more impactful that way.
Yeah, I think another thing would probably be for me, like I've been learning to slow down, like my brain just be like on speed, you know what I'm saying? Like it
Yep.
just
Yep.
it's constantly thinking ahead of something. So I could see where that might be an obstacle for me at times too, where I can be interrupting the client or something
Yep.
and want to say something because it's something good, but I might have to learn to slow down and let them finish, or add that when is the right time.
Exactly. That's the big thing is like, what if you're wrong? You give this advice, and then what if you're wrong? There's gonna be in your boat. It's gonna be all on you.
Yeah,
You like, you told me to
yeah,
do
yeah,
this. you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
it's better just to have the client figure out what the solution is, what they want to do, and then we work from there. And it's a whole better process that way.
Yeah.
So bottom line, listening is a gift we give our clients, and then people want and need to be heard. The coaching ladder begins with targeted questions and ends with clarity. So each step and question along the way provides answers that lead to solutions. Uh, so that's what this whole thing is about. What we just went through is right here. So that's what we're trying to get to. We're asking all these questions so the client can get clarity. The client. So that's what we want,
Yep.
and have them lead to a real good, the best solution that we could possibly get out of those sessions. But yeah, and then in the book I have here, help clients look less at the mountain and more at the mountain mover. So looking at God,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I read that. I love that. I love that. That's true.
yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I had to put that on there. This quote. I was like,
Yeah.
man,
Fo-
and that's
Focus on the right. Focus on the right
exactly,
thing.
exactly. So it's getting off of like it's not all on you. Lean on Him, lean on God for these things. That's what we're trying to guide them there every time. Because a lot of times we try to do it ourselves, and that's usually the problem. That's usually the problem.
Yeah, yeah. That's when we get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah. And the big thing is like many clients know their own obstacles, and so you just need to ask the questions for them to see and understand what those obstacles are. So that's why we're doing these questions too, and so then they could get to like, okay, what are my obstacles? Like truly thinking about that. So asking those right questions help.
Yes, sir.
All right, so uh, I'm gonna give you some examples. Here we go. A few examples. I think it's three of them. Let me see, three or four. Yeah, I think it's three examples in here. We're gonna go through. Um, so looking at this one, let me see. But yeah, asking great questions so people clients will talk, and so this is the objective. So you have here go a paraphrase right here. So reflect the client's thoughts back to them by paraphrasing what they said. And so that's what I was talking about, repeating back. So a client may say, I'm struggling
Yeah, yeah,
to meet deadlines. And the coach said, it sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed by your workload. This is the coach reflecting on and mirroring back the client's words. And this leads the client to know you heard them and establishes the target of the conversation. So this is just the
yeah,
easy way of like somebody says something and then you're just mirroring back what they said to emphasize that. That seems like something we need to dive into.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I use that also in counseling as well, like just so that I also know that I'm listening and I'm understanding
Hmm.
what he or she is sharing with me, and I'm able to like paraphrase as you said, like, hey, so I heard you say this, and then that, yeah, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say to you, because sometimes even the client is struggling to maybe articulate what they're trying to say. So sometimes I'll try to like say it in my own words to understand what they're trying to say.
Exactly, exactly. And then you go deeper. So gain clarity by asking more information to work with. So the
Hmm.
client says, I'm struggling to meet deadlines. And then you say, tell me more about what makes this challenging for you. Can you give me some real examples? And so that's where you're diving
Mm,
deeper and you're like, okay, they're gonna give some real world examples of what they're going through. And that's really good to get them think that way. But the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes for them. You know,
yes, sir.
you're just, you're guiding them along, to dive in, go deeper and to, truly gain that clarity of what what their struggles are. All right, so this scenario 1. So these are different scenarios, and there's a bad way of coaching and a good way of coaching. So scenario, the client is unsure about changing careers. A bad coaching way of doing this is, coach says, the first thing I would recommend is getting your resume brought up to date. So that's bad coaching. Good coaching, the coach listens without assumption and asks, what excites you most about this potential change? So putting it back in their court, putting it back out and not giving advice. That's why this is bad.
Yep.
All right, these next two, I'm gonna have you guys read them. So go ahead and take this one, Pedro.
Okay. It says the client wants insights on balancing work and family life. Bad coaching would say you should prioritize work first. That's how I would handle it. So here the coach is giving advice and sharing like kind of their bias or their assumptions of how they think things should be done. The good coach says, tell me about the obstacles you're facing and what a normal week looks like.
Yep.
So this has the client thinking a little bit over his week and seeing what may be in the way, kind of get a visual of what his week looked like to maybe possibly get him to think about how to balance that out. What are some things he may be able to move around to maybe have his week maybe a little less stressful or
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep. Exactly. All right, Tony, how you do this one? Oh, you on mute. You on mute, Tony.
Okay, this one is scenario 3. The client says that they are feeling a bit down lately. Bad coaching would say most people deal with it by focusing on positive things. Good coaching, ooh, you have to excuse me, how do I make this larger? Because okay, I got
You swiped
okay.
over. Okay.
Okay, yes. Most people deal with it by focusing on positive things. That's bad coaching. But good coaching, down. What does down look and feel like to you? In some cases, the client is just having a bad week. In other cases, the client is clinically depressed or should be referred elsewhere for treatment.
Yeah. And so that's what you want to dive into, because if it's like a reoccurring thing where they're constantly, you know, just always in the pit and just negative, and you can't progress them forward, there's probably something bigger going on. When
Mhm.
your coaching isn't working, it could be. I mean, and you gotta lower your pride too. It could be a thing where like you're probably not the right coach for them. If it's not progressing the way it should be progressing. That's when you try to like, okay, the best thing is to lead you over to somebody else that could possibly help. You know, and it may be times like that. And it could be, like it mentions on there, it could be therapy or counseling instead of coaching as well. But yeah, there's more. So there's more examples in your student portal as well. You could look there. But yeah, we're right at the end.
It's more There's more examples in the student portal, you said? Okay.
Yep. And then also, so next week we're gonna dive into the other coaching techniques as well. There's 15 total coaching techniques, and so we'll be focusing on the rest of them next week. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I printed them out. I just realized. Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
that's the ones we'll
printed
be
out the.
diving into. Yeah, we'll dive into those
Yeah,
next week.
I printed out the coaching. You talk about the coaching conversations, right?
Yeah, you got
Uh,
that coaching conversation, and you got the different coaching techniques where you have like a mirror back, you have a big picture. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I got it. I got it.
okay,
Yep. Yeah,
yeah. So we'll talk about that more next week with the different techniques. But no, any
yeah,
questions?
yeah. The championing, the light switch technique, the stretching
Yep,
technique.
yep.
Yeah, I got it. I got
Yeah,
it.
we'll dive into
Okay.
those even more because those are ones that they'll pop up. So especially the light switch, we'll talk more about that. But definitely turn on the light. We'll be talking about that. But no, any questions? Any questions?
Um. No, no. This was a good class. Thank you so much,
Awesome,
Yes,
Julius.
yes,
awesome,
Appreciate it, man.
awesome.
Yeah. No problem.
absolutely.
No problem.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
And like I say,
I'm learning
always.
some. I'm learning a lot from the content that you're
Yeah,
sharing with us, but also it's a refresher from some things I had learned previously a couple years back. So
yeah,
this is good.
Awesome. And I mean, and the big thing is like put this into practice. Like every week when we meet, like put all these things into practice with all those conversations that you're having. Especially this one.
Yeah,
This is active listening. So as you go through life talking to people, they want you to be listening to them. So yeah, definitely put this one into practice. Active listening and truly, talking back and giving, asking those questions, diving deeper. And we'll talk about this more, but being curious, about what they're saying, caring about what they're saying, people are saying. Um, but yeah, you definitely use these techniques, this technique of active listening.
yeah. I'm definitely in a role where I can do that because even though I'm a therapist at the jail, a lot of the youth when they're in my office, we're not always talking about past hurts or things. Sometimes we are talking about when they go home, what
Mm,
kind of goals they have. So I
yep,
do have a setting where I can do some coaching with them as well.
that's great. That's great. Yep.
Hmm.
And then that scenario that you printed out, that's exactly what you need to turn in to get your exam and your certification. So that was the whole layout that you see right there, is just back and forth. Client talking, coach talking, client talking, coach talking, and that's what you're going to be turning in. So in those sessions, if you want to write them down, you go ahead. You can ask them
Yeah,
if
yeah, I will.
it's okay or whatever, but yeah, you just need two
Thank
two
you.
coaching scenarios just like that, and it should be, like you said, should be easy for you because you're doing this all the time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. And then FYI, as I mentioned, we are each week these slides are being revamped from the old version, so you guys are seeing brand new versions of the slides. So with that, the homework may be a little different inside the portal, but I'm gonna let what the actual homework is and where to go. So in the portal for week 3, it may say read the identity worksheet, but you don't have to do that just yet. Uh, for homework this time, you're just reading up to chapter 7. I know that was a homework for last time, but read up to chapter 7 in the Christian coaching book. Um,
Yeah,
and
I read all the 7 chapters already. It's
okay,
really been a
okay,
good book. It's
so
been a
you're
good
good.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good there. So that's all the homework is for this time, and this is for people to catch up. If they haven't been able to read just yet. So Tony, if you haven't read just yet, you got time to catch up and read chapters 1 through
Awesome.
7 in that Christian coaching book. Um, Yep, yep. And you should be able to. There's an audio version too. So I don't know if you have, the audio. If you're able to get audio books, but there's an audio version of the book as well, which I like. I like doing. I just like listening to it and then writing my notes down.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, man. Take care. Thank you so much, man.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
sir. Yes, sir. And like I
thank
said, I'm gonna try to
you.
get everybody to come on Wednesday, as well.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, great.
Star Wars. I have one question
Yep.
off this subject. Though you say you from Chicago?
I'm from Chicago. Yep.
Yeah, is John Stallworth the one that owns the hardware store? Is he related to you?
I don't know. I say all Star Wars are related somehow. That's what I say.
Okay.
I don't know. We could be cousins.
Okay.
Could be my uncle. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
So, but you said John Starworth at the hardware store, not John Starworth the receiver, but at the hardware store.
In Chicago, you have Halstead. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Got a
Was
son
he
named.
also is he the same John Starworth that played in NFL? Or this is
No. I
oh,
don't
okay.
think so. Yeah. Nah, he got a son named Eric and another son named John.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now I don't know. We may be related. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But looks like Pedro had to drop off. But no, this was good, man.
Yes, it was.
I was gonna ask to see if you wanted to pray it out.